goes on to Lahore, then Manhattan, and finally arrives in Karachi. So it's a multicultural whirlwind from many places. And when you serve multicultural cuisine as an international hostess, then you are Marina Fareed. With Marina in conversation on her new book, which is about food, its appreciation, its method as entertainment, and its psychology and tradition, not to mention its innovations, its fusion, and other matters. The other lady sitting to my right comes from a very distinguished lineage. It is Ruby Haider. She is Nasir Haider's widow, but that's only one part of it. She is also the late Ali Raza's daughter. So she belongs to one of the most distinguished civil service and poetic families in the country. And who better than a daughter of a poet who has a working daughter who's making strides in Karachi? Who better than that to speak to our cosmopolitan, wonderful, marvelous Marina Fareed? Thank you.
हमी तुम यहाँ बैठ जाओ, स्टेज पे बैठ जाओ. मेरा कहना नहीं सुनता. Such a disobedient friend. Almost as tall as Hamid. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. And a good evening to you all. I feel quite strongly very ill-equipped to speak at this gathering, as unlike everyone else here, I had not met Marina Fareed until today. Tales of her boundless, not today, 2 days ago actually, tales of her boundless hospitality have been a recurring feature of Manhattan returnees. But it is not her fame, ladies and gentlemen, that I wish to speak of today, but a singular attribute that is fast disappearing from our modern or so-called modern lives. What is it then that we are here for? We are here to pay tribute to Marina Fareed because she is a throwback to a gilded age of soirees and accomplished hostesses. A soiree has been trenchantly described by Ernest Hemingway, who became a bit of a party goer himself, as a glittering gathering, blistering people held together by only one person, the hostess, while a gathering is designed to amuse and to educate and to gossip. This is the tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tradition that Marina has continued on a regular basis. It is certainly not an easy task, and I dare say educate Pakistanis of different persuasions. But Marina has succeeded in this eminently, through grace, through perseverance, and through a fine, fine kitchen for over 40 years. For this, we are truly grateful, Marina. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, a very small but important digression. Mohatta Palace Museum has an acceptable footfall of visitors, but the denizens of the DHA are nowhere to be seen. Please take this opportunity, if I may be so bold, to support the museum by purchasing a mug, possibly, a keychain, a card, or even a book. Thank you very much for your patience, and I will now call upon, I think Hussain Haroon has fled the coop, so I will then ask our guest of honor, Marina Fareed, to take the podium. Would you like to do that?
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Hello. Yes. Before I begin, I have a couple of people to thank. I will start with Nusrat Jameel, who is in Lahore. She was the brainchild of this event. She is the one who said that you must hold it at the Mohatta. She discussed it with Hamid Haroon. And then, of course, Nasreen Asghari had to put the stamp on it. And so here's the magical evening. And who else? And of course, I have to thank Tabinder Chinoy for the hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches she provided for this evening. And I have my granddaughter who flew in today, Ayla Aga. She's made this evening so special. She came in this morning. So Ayla, thank you so much. And of course, each one of you, you've come here. I can see all of you. You've elevated this evening to the level that it would never have been. So very grateful and thank you so much. Thank all of you. And Karachi is my city. It's a beautiful city by the sea. This is where I grew up, and some of my most beautiful memories are in this city. So, and having all of you here, I mean, I can't even tell you the emotion. And Ruby, I want to thank you for being the moderator, because I have a lot of respect for her, and when she agreed, I was really relieved. So looking forward to this evening.
Thank you, Marina. Can you hear me? Now? Okay. I mean, I seriously don't know what my credentials are to be sitting here and talking to this. You can't hear?
Yes, just.
I think, yeah. I mean, I doubt what my credentials are to be sitting here and talking to this iconic person that I'm moderating for, but I'm deeply privileged, in fact humbled, that she's asked me to do so. But before that, I want to say hello, everyone, and ladies and gentlemen, you are invited. You are invited. And I am asking you to fasten your seat belts as we undertake a most remarkable journey, traversing over 5 decades of a most remarkable woman's life and times. This, I promise you, will be a magical trip, offering you a view of the wide and varied travels that she has undertaken, a glimpse of the cultural diversity and traditions that she has experienced, a taste of the varied cuisines that she has sampled, and how this rich kaleidoscopic mix of colors and customs and creeds has enriched her in shaping her own personal journey through life. Also, how she took what she has learned to mold her home into the warm and welcoming space that it is today. It hosts a wide spectrum of guests or visitors. They are scholars and they are authors and businessmen and entrepreneurs and diplomats, students, young, old. All differences fade. All differences fade. And the conversation flows effortlessly as they partake of the offerings of what a young friend of yours, Marina, Nasreen Ikram Hussain, calls, as they partake of what Nasreen Ikram Hussain calls Auntie Marina's infinite table. Infinite. That adjective stayed with me. A table to be infinite. What a commendation is that. Anyway, many of us today in this audience, including me, are fortunate to call her friend and have been grateful recipients of the consummate, almost legendary hospitality of a beautiful home in New York, where food for the palate and food for thought meet in the most perfect harmony. Her book, You're Invited, is as much a memoir as it is a recipe book. As much a memoir. It is also a reflection on the importance of one's home, more specifically on one's kitchen, and the significance of these in forming long-lasting relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Marina Fareed. Hello, Marina.
Hello.
Welcome to Karachi.
Absolutely delighted to be here.
I mean, I can see by a look at the excited faces around us, that's a testament to your popularity. And since this is a book launch, should we perhaps begin with asking you, what led you to write this? What was the genesis of this book? You're Invited, and Marina, how is it different to other recipe books?
This was a COVID-inspired book. We were all sitting in the house, my daughter, my son, and Shaukat, we were having breakfast, and suddenly, I don't know, my son and daughter said, why don't you write? I said, everything is so quiet, so suddenly, I mean, everything really was, because suddenly they closed the COVID shutdown. So, I don't know, and many times people have asked me before, and I've never really taken it seriously, but this time, for some reason, I said, all right, let me try. So it's on my iPhone. I just started writing, and it wasn't taking shape until about 6 months. And then suddenly I found pictures in the basement. I found letters which had come, were sitting there since the 1970s. And then I just started putting it together, and it evolved. So it was, and this was sort of easy in a way, in the sense that the material was there. It was just that I didn't know how to, format it. So it was just going on and on and on. And one day suddenly I felt, all right, it's taking shape. And so it did. But it is basically nothing. It is just the fact that I think both of us have been very privileged in having a populated life of lots of family, friends. People have come. People have come and stayed with us. And the connections. I mean, for me, the connection has been the richness of our life. And the stories, this entire story are just narratives around tables, narratives around, conversations here and there, and it's just all come together in ways, it's a simple way. It's sort of not I didn't have to think about, it just started happening very organically.
When you read the book, you'll realize that Marina calls it a time for reflection. And it was a time for reflection for a lot of us. She also realized that she could now, in that quiet time, hear the birds in the park across from her. And somehow, as she writes, she says somehow that early bird song in the morning, kind of made her think of the conference of the birds and how these birds traversed across the valleys looking for the perfect leader, and then only to realize that the leader was within themselves. Anyway, so Marina became quite philosophical, thinking about things like that, and then she ventured, Marina, into a spring cleaning of your basement.
Yes, that's all we could do, was spring cleaning up the house, finding all these treasures which were sitting in the basement, and the only thing we could do is take walks in that park, which is down the street from us, and the Carlschulz Park. And I was just telling Ruby that, the kind of birds and things one never saw, it was just amazing. We have a little patio outside our dining room, and we used to sit there, and I saw the kind of birds that were migrating. I had never seen them. So there was something about that, about shutting the world down. And and the skies were clear, everything was clear, and probably there is something to the fact that that all the things that they said the ozone layer was healing. So I don't know, but it was a very quiet and a very peaceful time, and a lot of time to think. And I had time to think about my own life, and some of the things that when I started writing and I started going back, I started thinking about my time when I was growing up in school in the 60s, and my father at that time was in active service. He was here in Karachi, and some of the most beautiful memories are all, some of them in the book, they all started in the city. And also, and I think after a long time, one hadn't thought about all this for a long time. One just moves on with life. But suddenly, when I started writing this, I remembered that in the 60s, the country was so different, and it was so peaceful. And when times was, it was something that I had even forgotten. So a lot of the things that I wrote there were memories coming back, which were buried in my mind, and it was very, very nice to refresh my mind with those beautiful memories which are sort of sitting somewhere.
Yeah, and as you go through the book, you'll see some beautiful, almost sepia photographs and lovely letters written by us, the kind of global community that she has formed. I mean, it's quite exceptional, frankly. What Marina also did during that, and she's not taking credit for it, is that a lot of her New York friends started missing ghar ka khana. So, Marina, would you like to say it?
Yes, a lot of people. Actually, this one thing that happened, changed a lot of my friends in New York was they never cook. So it's always sort of bringing food out, but then they had to cook. So the value of of being a housewife, that she's just a housewife, doesn't do anything, just cooks, that changed because they realized what cooking entails. It means a lot. It means cleaning, cooking, doing a hell of a lot, and that realization happened. That is not as simple as they think it is. It is an art. It is something that you have to learn. You have to process the food properly so you can eat it, and it takes time. So a lot of my friends started looking at recipes, and the whole thing came out totally raw, because they said, well, the recipe says brown the rice, so they brown the rice, put the masala, say put the masala, but they never brunoed it. So when you don't bruno it, it's not edible.
Yeah.
So these were things that in about a year or two that people had to stay home, that changed. And then they realized how much money they were saving, because all this plastic food that we eat, I mean, the kind of money that goes into that. So those concepts changed, which were very nice. And so that is one of the good things about food that happened. And people are now staying, and also people got used to staying at home. They were not getting cabin fever. Because, in New York, people are always got cabin fever. You get up and go out. Mm. So now they're staying home more, they're eating healthy, and they're cooking. So that was the big change, I think, that COVID did to, at least in New York. It changed things a lot.
And you were also Ubering keema to them, weren't you?
Yes, a lot of people said that make some keema for us. So how much? Make 10 pounds. I said, okay, then make packets. So I would do that, and I would just send them, and they would send their Ubers, and they'd get them picked up. So it was, because I wasn't cooking, there were no parties, so I was quite happy sort of doing these few little things for some friends. I was delighted. And it kept me busy, kept my kitchen active, and it was fun. It was very nice.
Well, and so this Uber Keema Brigade basically got after Marina and persuaded her to actually write down her life and times and her romance with food and subsequently with people. And I think that's what, but I do want to read a little something that James Ivory, a famed American director, has written in Introduction, Marina, to you, because he's obviously in awe of you, like most of us are. So he says, it's a long introduction and you'll read it, but this is what he says. The recipes in this cookbook are Marina Fareed's. Like good cooks anywhere, she has inherited some from her mother, and others from her mother-in-law, while many are hers. Some have been given a little twist by her cook of over 35 years, Abdul Majid, who she refers to as a sous chef. This is the arrangement, says James Ivory, that he came to be familiar with in his many, many years of travel in North India and Pakistan. Madam picks up the menu, and an Abdul-like figure does the heavy lifting, as we like to say, and she, Marina, supervises with exactitude. So, well done, Marina. Your table has a lot to be acknowledged, and people have done it. So that's how the genesis of the book came around. As I told you, friends were so delighted at having Qima arrive at their doorstep.
You know, talking about connections, connections also happen if you are open to people, you bring people to your home, you get introduced to more people. So, you know, if you restrict your life only to about 5 people or 6 people, these things don't happen. This magic that's happened this evening is because of Nusi, because of Hamid, because of Nasreen. So this kind of thing wouldn't happen if I didn't know the people. So I think it's important. Connections are really the only way that I know is how to live, because they give you the quality life. It's a short life. You live it well. You live it with people, and you learn from it. You grow yourself. If you don't don't meet people from all walks of life, you will just be that little person and won't grow. So I feel that I've had the opportunity and the privilege of meeting a lot of people, and you have to be open to appreciating what people with talent do, every time I've gone to somebody's home, if they've kept a beautiful home, I've genuinely appreciated it, tried to see it, learn from it. If somebody's had a beautiful table, I've always said, how lovely, how do you cook this, kis tarah banate ho? That's the only way you will be able to see. If you think that, you know everything, all that, then, your mind just doesn't accept anything. So, right from Spain, when we got married, in Spain the Spaniards live fabulously. Some of their homes are like magic, and I'd just gone from Pakistan, and that was my first posting at some of those fabulous, fabulous homes. My eyes used to open up, and I'd say, my God, And in those days was a very glamorous time in Spain. They still sort of believed in, if there was a cocktail party, they would come in ball gowns. And we had to go in our tanchois. It doesn't happen anymore. I don't know. That's what I hear. Things have been simplified much more. But those were the years that everybody dressed. Dressing was serious. And in restaurants, you see people fabulously dressed. So Spain was much like we were in the 60s. So everywhere you went, there was glamour. There were people, dressing seriously, entertaining seriously. Tables were seriously laid. So it was that kind of a thing. So through that, one learned a lot about, doing things a certain way. At least I was able to. I was exposed to that. Then went to Mexico. It was even better. It was the same. They all were sort of living so beautifully, entertaining beautifully, and they entertained frequently. So it was, it was a lot of learning for me in those days, lot of learning, that even if 2 people are coming, lay out the table properly, make it into an occasion, make them feel special, even if the food is simple, but presented nicely.
Yeah.
So it's you can just have dal chawal, but do it nicely so that those who come, they feel that it's sort of, you elevate the evening for them. So those are things that I learned through the years, and I've enjoyed it. But connections has been, I think for me, has been the most successful thing, because from one person to the other person to the other person, so many people have come into my lives, and people have been so generous. James Ivory came through my friend Chini. She introduced us. She called me from London. She said, I want to introduce to my friend. Who does it? There is a tendency in people that they don't want to introduce anybody to very important people. When important people come, just let other people be, and you just hug them. But then I've been very lucky that friends have shared their bigger friends and opened a bigger world for me. And so for me, connections have proved very, very beneficial throughout. All my Indian friends that I've met, from one to the other. So when I go to India, I don't know how it happened, but that's the way it happened. It started with one person, two people, and then suddenly, I don't know, a whole community of friends who live in New York, and the whole India sort of opened up. So for 15 years I used to go every year, because Shaukat had ambassadors who were friends who were ambassadors in Islamabad. And I would get, I took my winter visit, going to India in the winter, part of my winter holidays. 15 years I did it. And it was like, and every year I went, I met 10 other people. You know, it's sort of, for me, it is like, that is the way I grew into a very big community, international community. And I opened up mine so that they could meet people. When people come from Pakistan, I always like to throw in my American friends. I throw in friends who, who are there. So it's just being open, not try to not let people meet, important people meet. It doesn't matter in the end. And so sometimes people are so obsessed with all these things that they shut a lot of things for themselves as well. So you open up, try to think your world gets bigger. That's the way I feel about it.
I think, Marina, what I glean from that conversation and from the book, that actually everyone sees what they want to see, and everyone gets what they look for. If you look for love, if you look for beauty, if you're generous with your praise, then people will respond to you. They will respond to you. And I think at the heart of it, you are a gregarious, people-loving person. And so, I think, Marina, you will always be surrounded by friends. But what I want to bring you back to is actually when they got married, I think in April 1970 in Karachi. And the next year or soon after,
2 weeks.
2 weeks later, Madam proceeds to Spain with her diplomat husband. And she was armed with her tanchois and her silk brocade saris, but not with some basic know-how. So the very next day, when her new husband asked her to boil an egg and make a cup of coffee, Madam was kind of mortified. She really didn't know. She almost said, Shaukat, tell me if I'm right, she almost set fire to your apartment because she tried to use a match on the electric hot plate. So that was Marina. And I have to tell this because this is very, very sweet. So after he had proceeded to work, being a good husband, he made his coffee. Whether he had his boiled egg or not, I don't know. But he made his coffee and he went to work. And then Madam, of course, rang up the one person we all do. And who do you think we do? Who do we blame for everything that we do wrong? Mother. Who else but Mother? So Mother was called. Mother gave her a strict, now you tell it.
Well, my mother said, I said, I don't know anything, and you just backed me off. He said, well, if I'd said something to you then, you wouldn't have learned.
Yeah.
So now you need it, so learn it. And I've put the Dalda cookbook in your, in the bag, so just find it.
With my scribbles on it.
With my scribbles on it.
With my scribbles on it.
There's Zara Bilgrami sitting there. Zara, thank you so much for coming. Zara's father was our first ambassador, General Bilgrami. And her mother, Bia, was one of the finest homemakers. And I owe a lot of, because that was my first posting, and I owe a lot from Bia. And they were really, those 4 years in Spain, they were there with us for 2 years, and they were just the beginning. And watching Bia, the way she had the first, General Sher Ali was visiting Madrid. We'd just been there. We were there about 3-4 days. And we were invited to the ambassador's residence, which was, again, you have to read all the details, a magnificent residence. And Bia, of course, laid the most beautiful table, and everything was my first. Everything was first, and the embassy was the first time. The table, and Bia did everything so beautifully, and so that she was one of my first tutors. And with Zara, we've spent beautiful time together in Madrid. Very, very happy times. Very happy times.
And it's a lovely picture of her.
I know.
In that black sari.
Yes.
It's a lovely picture.
Yeah, yes.
When you
and with Harry Grunberg, Zara. So yeah.
But Marina, here I have to give credit to two mothers, your own, who pointed out that the Dalda Ka Dastarkhan, with her scribbles and notes, which had of course enhanced the recipes, was still in her suitcase, untouched. I mean, tanchois are not enough, they're good, but you can't live by tanchois alone. So, and the second mother was her mother-in-law, Shaukat's mother, who dispatched her
One of our best guys.
best guys.
Yes. She said, I'm sacrificing and sending him.
Yeah.
He's not a cook, but he's a good man. He won't run away.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
So mothers
Yeah.
got together to provide.
I had to bring him back. Unfortunately, he had died. So I had to take him back to the village, when he passed away. But 40 years, he was like a blessing in our home. And really, for these people, we live the way we do. It could never happen without them. So they're really so precious. But again, it's about people. Again, keep on emphasizing on food and people, because the guests who came, Dalda cookbook was never used. It was there because when I would read it, I couldn't head a tale of those recipes. Which means that, you have to have some sense. It's like everything, you have to know how to cook. They tell you, but it doesn't matter. So that cookbook was never touched. It stayed like that until my mother came to live with me 30 years later. But again, it's house guests. And Mrs. Afar Khan came from London, and Brigadier Afar Khan and Auntie Qamar, they were the first people. And Majid, who was 21, I was 18, and Auntie Qamar, who was also in early 30s I think probably, she was also young. All of us in the kitchen, music on, chatting, and Auntie Qamar was such great storyteller. So she's going on storytelling, cutting, whatever. So, this is how, then somebody else came, taught me something else. So it's really my house guests who made me confident by throwing me into the kitchen. So it's people. The more you talk to me, the more it's going to be people, and people.
So they were in the kitchen with you?
Yeah, they were in the kitchen.
Yeah.
All my guests. We have music on hai, baatein ho rahi hain, Pakistan ki baatein ho rahi hain, all kinds of things, and
That's
cooking ho rahi hai.
Yeah.
And there was no recipe book. Everybody was jalawing the khana, and Majid shoved his head one day into the oven. He said, "Oh, main to sar jal gaya." So so that kind of thing. But it was 4 years. Initial 4 years were really the guests who taught me and Majid everything. Slowly the confidence came, but it's it is just again constantly my emphasis on food and people and food, where everything where my life has grown is around them. It was abundant of people, love, and what can I say? Very blessed.
So Marina, I think Abdul Majid and you have had some, was it during your stint in Mexico or Portugal that you and he went out to try street foods together?
With Shaukat, I did the bigger things because he wouldn't go to the street food.
Yeah.
And yes, but Majid and I went to all the street food, and that was another world. Fabulous food, and so that I did with Majid. Yes.
Yeah. And then they probably
a lot to explore on the street food front.
Yeah. And in Spain, you also had a quartet of ladies who got interested.
Yeah. Initially, when we went, there were 3-4 friends. We were all newly married. Nobody had families, and we were there. So we met each other. In the second cocktail that I went to, and we just became friends. Again, cooking, because they didn't know how to cook, and constantly entertaining. And in Spain, we used to have a lot of bridge. So everybody was playing bridge. So there was bridge game one day at our house, one day at our ambassador's house, somebody at somebody's house. So so I had to do something apart from formal entertaining. That was a way of life. So so food was just I just always had to have something ready.
Food, yeah. Although the tanchois did get you the front seat at the flamenco performances, but she had to.
And those cocktails where I went to, that's where we made a lot of our friends.
Yeah.
So that was also very nice. And the Spanish people were so beautiful. They were like us. In many ways, they were like us. Come and they also like our biryani. There's that paella, so which grows and grows, and so they didn't. If you bought 10, if I had house guests, whoever was there, I would take them. Can I bring? Sometimes there were 2, sometimes there were 5. Bring. The paella got bigger. So, but the Spanish are so welcome. You're sitting here. You know what the Spanish are like. So they're lovely.
So, Marina, people say that you have actually perfected the art and science of home entertainment. You know, entertainment at home, and a lot of us are nervous about entertaining at home, but you really have perfected it, both the art and the science of home entertainment. I mean, would you like to, or is it too bombastic a word, but would you like to share your philosophy about cooking at home and some of the techniques that you may employ to make this easy and doable?
Well, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, frozen food is not good for health, but I freeze my food. It doesn't stay that long because, you know, with people it gets
goes, yeah.
Yes. But I learned that, that I had to keep to, like for example, again, back to keema, I would do a big batch of keema and keep it in the fridge. So if suddenly somebody came and called me in the morning that we are in town, we want to come and see you, we are only there for one day. Tomorrow we are going off to Washington. So I said, then come. So what do you do if they call you at 10 in the morning or 12 in the afternoon? So they're coming in the evening. So then I pull out the keema, then I pull out some of the vegetables which I can freeze. I have dal on the freezer. So, because you know, it's not only about cooking, you have to clean the kitchen. You got to make the counter spaces this much in New York. So I have to keep the counters clean. So it is not about just not wanting to cook when people come, but it's also keeping the kitchen clean, and when the guests come, there's so many other little things I need the counter for. So everything comes out of the freezer. Those are my impromptu dinners.
Yeah.
And for the other dinners, of course, I plan better. But I keep my menu simple, and you don't need more than that. Just simple, nicely put out.
And you don't have the kind of help that you have here.
I have one. No, I have, yes. I have one who, again, Lucy bought me from Washington. Yeah, so I've been very fortunate, but the question is, at the end of the day, they are so precious, but then at the end of the day, he's just one person. So I cannot sort of keep ordering him, so we both work together. If he's mopping, I'm washing. If he's washing, then I'm cleaning. If he's doing something, I'm doing it with him. I don't like him to feel that I'm ordering and sitting there.
Yeah.
So we both work together and do everything. I wash the bathroom, so I don't hesitate asking him to wash the bathrooms. You know, I don't want to say, so I'm not going to touch your bathroom. So he sees me washing the bathroom, so he dare not say, no, I'm not going to do it. So that's the kind of arrangement we have with my guy. So he's family, he's there. When Shaukat is not there, he's sitting and having tea with me, and I have to listen to all the stories over and over and over again.
Yeah, of
course.
course.
But then that's the way it is.
Yeah,
we are there, that's his family, and I give him all the time I can. But, you know, without him, I couldn't live the way I do. He's just, I mean, absolutely indispensable for me. So I've been very lucky. One man, but then they were good. And I enjoy working, and I enjoy doing what I do, so it is not a burden or anything. But then one man, of course, he is, having him there. I don't know if I didn't have him there, I would have to change my, for 5 years, when Majid died, for 5 years I had nobody. And, you know, and I was so disturbed. But then I sat and I told myself, I said, am I going to just change my lifestyle? Am I going to just close the house? I'm not going to, you know. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I started. And then, and Shaukat asked me that, do I need to take people? Let me take people out. I said, no, you're not taking anybody out. So he said, but no, but I have the whole team, and there are about 28 people. So you can't manage it. The Majid is not there. I said, no, you come. So that was my first time, I remember, and I cooked till 4 in the morning so that I would not be tired the day of the party. And the day of the party, I got up late, I did everything late, but night before I did everything. And then I got somebody to serve. But those 5 years, I learned that, you know, sort of not having somebody, how difficult it is. But I didn't change my lifestyle, it continued. And friends kept coming, and I didn't say no to anybody. But then that also sort of kind of gave me the confidence that you can do it. It made me stronger, so that was a good thing. But if you give up and you sit down and no, I'm not do it, I felt I didn't want to feel defeated. So we continued that.
Yeah. I mean, even hearing Marina, you would know that she is a people's person. And it's not that this started when she got married. She has, as you read the book, you will realize that she has a very rich legacy of entertaining at home, specifically in her parents' home and her grandparents. So would you like to talk a little about growing up in your parents' home, which was Bonus Road, was it?
No, it started early.
Earlier, but
Back
here,
house,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
No, I think, first of all, I think it's a bit genetic. It's not something that, suddenly I want to do it, so I want to. So it has to be part of your genes. You have to have that ease. And I did grow up, although technically I'm the only child, but my mother is one of 6, my father is one of 5. And but while I was growing up, my nani and my dadi, who were both widows, they were staying with us. So my room was in the middle, one side my dadi, one side my nani. So my mother was working. She was a very serious career woman, so she was working. So she would go off to teach. And but starting in the morning, my nani's daughters would start coming. She had 2, and the daughters-in-laws would start coming. My dadi had 4 girls. They would start coming. So somebody for breakfast, to visit their mothers. So I grew up with people, ting ting ting. The bell was ringing constantly for them. So that started. Then we came to Karachi, and also my father was very, very, very social, very extremely social. So people have not been a problem. It's something that I've taken it for granted. House was always full, people were always coming, and people of all walks of life were coming. Both my parents, also had the capacity to bring in all different kinds of people. They were both had that capacity. So that was another huge advantage.
Yes, because at a very young age, Marina is not mentioning it here, but you will read it in the book, that at their home and on Bonus Road here, His Highness, His Royal Highness Prince Karim Agha Khan was guest at a dinner just before a state banquet for him. They came, Princess Salima and the Agha Khan came for dinner, and Marina's father made her sit next to the Agha Khan, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, she I think, Marina, you developed really a quality of looking at a person as a person and not be overawed or, like out of your own depth. You were comfortable in your skin, and I think that's what your parents gave you, which is what you keep on mentioning.
Yeah, no, I think it was my father was very clear that I had to be there. I used to be in Murray, Jizen Mary Murray. So I was in boarding school a lot of the year. But in the winter, I was in Karachi for 3 months. And whatever happened, if somebody's coming for tea, you have to come. And I used to say, I'm getting bored. They will laugh at me. I'm this little girl sitting there. I mean, what is this? But no, see, they're laughing at you, they laugh at me. Just leave it, you come, you have to be there. So I would be sort of, a little upset, but I just had to do it. And now I realize that, I think that was school of education that my parents gave me, particularly my father. My mother was not that social, but she supported her husband and went along with, he had to be happy, according to her. But he was so social, and he also introduced me to everybody who used to be in the house, who would come to the house, or he'd be going out. And I realized that was really the best education that they gave me, and I try to do that with my children, and I feel that it has worked, because both my children have a huge Pakistani. My friends' children are their friends. My son came last year with Shaukat in March and didn't want to come back till October. And he wasn't planning to come back. He would have waited for us. But he had a friend getting married in Turkey, in Istanbul. So he had to go for that. So then he came home. But, loved his time in Lahore. My daughter has a huge group. So I think that is because whatever was happening in the house, I did the same thing my parents did, You have to be there. You have to be there for the social hour. I don't care if you don't want to join us for the sit down, but social hour, you need to be there. So that has, I think, developed, and I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad my father did it for me, because it really was a very big thing.
No, and we are glad.
And even to this day, I don't know, in my daughter's friends, Shaukat and I are probably the only 2 geriatrics who are invited to all these young parties. So we are the only ones who survived it. And they don't look at our age. They never ask how old you are.
Yeah.
But you're coming. Yeah. And a lot of them still call me Marina and call Shaukat. So there's no auntie, uncle there, some of them.
No.
So I just feel blessed, because their friends are Mars and my friends are theirs. So somehow it has worked out beautifully. And I've emphasized a lot on Pakistani community, because I've told my children, however much you have your American friends, your school friends, and however rich they are or no rich, your community is what's going to help you right in the end. Because as you get older, they are the ones you're going to need. So please don't get into these fancy ideas that, your rich American friends and their friends, and you ignore your basic friends, because you'll be lost. A time will come you'll be lost. So I think they've understood that, because I was very particular. Again, when we got married, my mother and my father said, look, whatever you do, don't get too impressed with your bureaucracy and your diplomatic life and become, and start thinking your cat's whiskers, because your service is going to be government service is very short. So be prepared that when you are retired, when Shaukat retired, that you're not left friendless. And I remembered that. My father was very, very, very particular about this. I'm a government official and I know that I've everything now, but tomorrow when I retire, I'm going to be out in the cold.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there too, because Shaukat's a bureaucrat. 62, that's it. And I think it was a very important thing my father told me. I had that in my mind, and I always kept that all my friends from everywhere, school friend, wherever, it was sort of always, I tried to keep it together like that. And their children are now my parents, my children's children. So we have been able to keep that community. So hopefully when we are not there, my children won't be that lost.
Wow,
So it's very important.
Wow. I mean, I almost want to ask you for your autograph right now. I almost do, really. I'm, re-awed of you totally.
You've done a fantastic job with your 3 children.
Thank
so in fact, I have
you,
learned from you, Ruby.
Well,
3 children.
one of them is here. Well, stand up and be counted.
There you are.
Yes. Yeah, just stand up. Yeah,
Hi.
that's it.
No, Ruby has 3 beautiful children.
Thank you.
2 of them are there in New York. Tanya runs the most beautiful home. She's a
But this is not about them or my children or about
No,
me.
it's about friendships and it's about community. It is, of course. And they also, her children, are very much part of the community. They keep with their friends. They have all their rich friends. They have all their Gora friends. We all get into this big Gora thing, and we think, bas Gore aa gaye, so we've done it. We've arrived. But that is not the case, because Goras have their Goras, so you are somewhere in the middle. You cannot be an elite, unfortunately, however much you have, your job, your money, but they have their own elite, we have to have our own elite.
Exactly. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, before you kind of just get the idea that Marina's drawing room is always seen to this, what she said, soirees and entertainment, please, excuse me, she has housed up to 18 teenagers, and mothers of teenagers, how big they are, how all over the place they are. 18 teenagers at a time have lived in her home, because these were children of friends in Pakistan or Bangladesh or even India, I don't know.
Lots of them in India.
And a lot of time, their shorter holidays, they could not go home. So all the East Coasters, the students, would sit on what she calls the Chinatown bus and arrive at. So Marina, will you tell us that was that why your home and Dr. Nafis Sadiq's home in New York were called the Grand Central Stations of New York?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And fortunately, we shared a lot of the friends. Shoaib Saab was also the finance minister here at the time that my father was the governor of the State Bank, and they were all in the service at that time. So a lot of their friends they shared. So we had the same community of people. So who came, they would always call Nafis Appa and a lot of them would call us also. And of course, when they called us, come over. When they called Nafis Appa, come over. So these 2 houses would all come over. So that recently when Nafis Appa passed away, I went and helped Amreen clean up the apartment. And the first day I went to the apartment, it was so difficult, because in 1980, I've enjoyed some of the most beautiful, incredible parties that Nafis Appa has met some of the finest people. Shaukat and Nafis worked in the UN together, so they had shared a lot of the career there. I shared a lot of the past there.
Yeah.
Our fathers were worked together. So there were so many things. These are the things again.
And
I
she
tell
had
my
Amosh
children.
Khan, and you had Abdul Majid.
I had Amosh Khan.
Yeah.
He had things. So there were a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And so this is what I keep on saying, that it's connections, it's about connecting, it's about associations that make relationships, it adds a little bit more than just, we made lots of new friends, but those old connections sometimes, it has something very, a special element to them. So we've been very fortunate
So Marina, I think you have been in New York for a little over 4 decades.
Yeah.
4 decades it is. And I love the New York quote that you have selected to put on top, that, what does it say? That you don't need 15 years to fall in love with New York, you do so in minutes, or something like that. And it's Thomas Wolfe, if I'm not wrong, who's a very well-known American author. So anyway, New York, Marina, tell me, because Shaukat's work was at the UN, and it was basically, to oversee humanitarian aid to countries that needed it, and he was hobnobbing in the corridors of power with all the global representatives and others so his job naturally probably entailed a lot of entertaining also. And so how did you make your home that base where everyone, what did you feel when you started doing it?
Well, the thing is that I think I started building the infrastructure in the house. So there was always, I was prepared to, cooking was easy, having those dinners was easy, everything was kind of, I've kind of developed this ease with all that. So when I used to tell Shaukat, you take 4 people out and spend as much as I can you can entertain 20 people at home. Not only that, it's not only the financial part of it, but then comes the fact that he himself started realizing that when he brought them home, there was the kind of the friendships that he developed. When you bring people home, you suddenly things change.
Totally.
And they feel differently about you. They get a better idea about you, and so I think over the years he's still working. He retired, but they immediately got jobs, and I think they were all the friendships that he made at that time that has helped him. So I think probably something has worked. But home for me works because I can do it, and I find it works in a great budget, and also connection-wise. They're there till 2 in the morning. When a restaurant, where will they do that? They drink as much as they want. They do whatever they want. So, and so those things have helped him, and so I think probably it was a good decision.
I think it was. It's called the Ambassador's Cigar Club, if I'm not mistaken, and Marina provides that congenial atmosphere that, am I being told to wind it up?
Yes, we will.
No, we realize. Are we running out of time?
The Cigar Club only, I think we'll finish with that. But we'll finish with this. But with the Cigar Club is interesting because the Cigar Club, the spouses are not invited. But during COVID particularly, they were not, most of them were not entertaining. Even when it's not COVID, they always ask Shaukat, can we have the dinner at your place? I say, Shaukat, I don't mind doing it, but it's a bit much because they are supposed to be their turn now. Lekin aasan ho jata hai na, they say that, so Shaukat says, yes, and then I do it, and then I have to cook, clean, do everything, and then go up. And then I'm not allowed to be there because they're till 3 in the morning, they're smoking.
Cigar smoke.
And all that. But then they don't do it, and when it's their turn, they ask him, can you do it again? So that's the way it was. So, but then that helps Shaukat. So it's those connections then.
So Marina,
asking him, then he gets...
if humanitarian aid has reached some country, Marina has played a part,
well, I don't know about
small part somewhere.
I don't know about the humanitarian, but
well, whatever.
Shaukat's connections have worked.
No, 100%. 100% agree with.
Sorry.
Yes, of course.
Chini is she's the one who introduced me to James Ivory.
Koi mic hai?
No, that's not. That's very important. So this what, हाँ सुनाई नहीं दे रहा.
चीनी कम.
इधर आ जाओ चीनी, इधर आके बोलो.
इधर आओ.
She and I have been friends. We were 10 years old. She and her sister Nusi. Yeah.
इसके ऊपर आओ फिर सब सुने. Lovely to see you.
So of course, but is this working?
Yeah.
Yes.
अपने मुंह पे लगाओ.
हाँ.
Are we allowed?
हाँ.
नहीं वहाँ से ऑन करो.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me now.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Marina and Ruby have talked about connections, about diplomacy, dining, wining, connections. Okay. Marina's parents met at a meeting of the Communist Party of India. Okay. Marina's father, when he died, he had been the governor of the State Bank of Pakistan, and they were in England, I was in England, and Marina's mother called me. And I went there, Amma also arrived there, and she just wanted to pack Uncle Rashid's things. What did he have? Books and books and books.
Wow.
And he lived in a 2-bedroom flat in North Finchley,
They don't make them like that
and
anymore.
black shoes, brown shoes, sandals, pile of vests, pile of boxer shorts, shirts hanging, 4 suits. This was a man who was the governor of the State Bank of Pakistan.
Wow.
Okay? Then Marina. Obviously we used to be together, and auntie saying, we used to live upstairs in Bank House. Downstairs was opened for parties. When the parties were over, we were told, go upstairs. Closed. Marina has the largest heart in the world, and now I want to tell an anecdote about Majid. It's her heart, Marianne, it's your heart that does it. So Majid, he was there for 40 years. So I was a recipient of her large heart, thinness, and of course I would have fought if she hadn't been large-hearted with me. So I'm in Spain, in Madrid, Euro railing, and I've eaten up all the parathas in the morning and packed some up. And Majid is saying, ये जो चीनी बीबी हैं, ये बहुत तंग करती हैं, ये आमलेट लेके चली गई हैं, ये पराठे लेके चली गई हैं. मरीना से ऐसे नहीं बात करो, ऐसे नहीं बात करो, ऐसे नहीं बात करो, Majid. And then of course 40 years later, I happened to be in New York when Majid has cancer. And his room is downstairs next to the kitchen, and I hear Ravi Shankar's sitar. So I go there, inside Majid's room. He's sitting all suited, booted, and he's listening to Ravi Shankar. I said, "Arey Majid, aap Ravi Shankar ka sun rahe sitar?" So he said, "Bibi, is ghar mein reh ke maine bhi kuch seekh liya hai."
Wow.
Then, when he was in his last days, he was in the best hospital round the corner. So I went to call on him, and of course, I also enjoyed the sessions when Marina was teaching him English. Arampat. And they're going for a walk, and she'd already told me that when they'd go to, where did you go to Canal Street or wherever for shopping, when people thought that Majid and Marina were husband and wife. So there we are in the hospital. I've gone to see Majid, and the dietitian comes. So the dietitian is telling him, and he says, I am waiting for my bus. I'm waiting for my bus. So then Marina arrives, and the doctor turns around. The doctor's also arrived, and he says, oh, Mrs. Majid. So Majid says, no, not my wife, my boss. And the doctor says, all wives are bosses. When Majid died, Marina traveled with him to Rahim Yar Khan. She buried him there, and she still keeps in touch with his wife. And I'm so proud of knowing her. You, Marina, have the largest heart in the world.
Jeannie, I'm glad you came in. Yeah. I'm so glad. I think we've sort of run out of time, and we will, Marina, just to finish off, can you give us, in a very short form, what have you learned is the nexus between food and relationships? What are the
conflicts. So that is the center of it.
Well said. Well said. Let's give her a hand. Well done.
Fabulous.